Okay, so we are live streaming now. And we'll get started momentarily. Emily, it's nice to meet you. And hi, Kurt, Katie. It's all the folks here in the Kadampa so far. And I just want to apologize for not introducing myself before. Because normally we come in and like we're troubleshooting, but tonight, knock on wood, so far so good. So yeah, it's good to see you. Kurt, how are you? Oh, good. Good. Excellent. Okay, good. I was probably too frazzled. Because I know that one night that we were going to show the video, it was crazy. Hi. Hi, I'm Linda. Oh, hey, Catherine. Okay, it's good to see you too. Kurt, Katie. Katie's mask glows in the dark. Very cool. That's Emily. Chris, you should put this camera on so folks on Zoom can see everyone. And y'all can wave to the folks on Zoom. Hang on, not yet. It's very cool. We have two cameras, a side view and a front view. Chris is working on the side view. We're just basically having fun and killing time until Dawn gets here and gets set up. So let me know if you have questions. I don't think I want to tell everybody about the Willie Nelson song, Chris. I did discover this amazing song with Willie Nelson and his son Lucas, Lukas, and they do a version of Just Breathe, which is by Pearl Jam, and it is just beautiful. You've got to check it out if you have any inclination towards Willie Nelson at all. Okay. So we don't have our side view camera, Chris? We don't have our side camera? There it is. Now folks on Zoom can see the Kadampa. So you see Emily, wave Emily, up here, right here, right above me, like you're waving to me. And there's Kurt, and there's Chris, and Katie. No, and Catherine. There we go. And Dawn apparently just pulled up, so we should get started momentarily. So sit back, relax, take some full deep breaths, get ready, prepare your mind for Dr. Dawn Brown. Hey, Dawn.
Hello. Yeah, I wanted. I was thinking that in my when I was thinking about doing this class, there's a practice that a lot of people do, actually, people that are serious, and that is they keep like six times a day, sometimes more, sometimes less. They'll keep track of their actions. They know what their vows are, they know what their commitments are, and they go through it. And we have there's in fact, there's an app, but I couldn't get it to download on my cell phone. Yeah. Yeah, it's on them. It's in the App Store, but it just couldn't get it to stay. So let's start out with a little meditation. Get settled. Then we could do. Let's see. Instead of doing the regular prayers, where's the three principal aspects of the path? Is that in this book? It is. Oh, great. Thank you. So we'll read that after we start out with a little meditation. All right. So sit up straight, comfortable position. Not too comfortable there. You don't want to be sitting, you don't want to be leaning back. And if you can sit, I used to be, before I had my knee replaced, that was an experience. I used to be able to sit full lotus. Now I'm just happy to be sitting in a chair. But you want to be stable. So feet on the ground, the back straight up. You know, like the vertebrae, like stacked, like checkers on top of one another. And again, the shoulders are back and down. The chin's a little tucked in. The eyes slightly open. Let a little bit of light in. That's generally the recommendation. Where your gaze is, toward the tip of your nose. Soft gaze, not focused gaze. Tongue at the roof of your mouth. And your arms a little bit away from your body, so that if you've been sitting here for 2 or 3 hours meditating, you won't get too hot. But that's not going to happen tonight. But if you did, for people that meditate for long periods of time, this posture is amazing because you can maintain it for a very long time. And then you want to scan your body for any areas of where you might be holding on to some tension. You can start at your feet and just move up from your ankles to your thighs and torso, shoulders, arms, neck, muscles of your face and scalp, particularly shoulders. Just relax. And start out with, take a deep breath. You want the exhalation to be about twice as long as the inhalation. Just take a deep breath and exhale. Now take another deep breath, and at the top of the breath, hold it for just a few seconds, and then exhale again. Prolonged exhalation. And now allow your mind to just follow the breath. wherever you notice it, wherever it's the most, where it catches your attention. Could be the tip of the nose. For many people, it's the rising and falling of the abdomen or the chest, or just the whole experience of breathing. And this becomes the touchstone, so that when your mind is distracted, which is the nature of the mind, to be distracted, you bring it back gently but firmly to the experience of breathing. So it is in the nature of the mind to be distracted. So when you find yourself off, writing a letter to yourself or whatever it is, could be a feeling, could be thoughts, could be sounds, whatever takes your mind away from the focus of the breath. Notice that, and without any judgment, just bring it back, start again. Now, relax your concentration. We're going to do the 3 principles of the path. And this is a good thing this is a good prayer to memorize, because it really does cover the whole path. And one of the reasons maybe we'll do this every time from now on, but it's important that you understand where Bodhichitta fits in, and also how we'll talk a little bit about how to develop, at the very least, renunciation. We'll do maybe a really quick 2-minute meditation, or just a few minutes on developing renunciation. But remember, we talk about Buddhism, there's a lot of lists, right? We have a lot of lists, but there's the 3 principles. We talk about the 4 Noble Truths, right? We're sick, there's a cause for the sickness, it can be cured, and here's the medicine, right? Dukkha, the cause is karma and delusion. Cessation of suffering is possible, and here's the path. This is the medicine. So we talk about that. We talk about the 3 principles of the path, which are renunciation, which is basically having compassion for yourself And also having some faith that it is possible to be free. It's this determination to be free of suffering. Then the second aspect of the path is Bodhichitta, which is what this course is about. And then lastly is the wisdom of emptiness. And there's a whole nother class, and it's probably mentioned in every class here in Discovering Buddhism. So let's read through here, read this prayer together. Is it up so people at home can see it?
Yes, it's up on, I've
Okay.
shared my screen, and for those of us in the GOMP, it's page,
Okay,
was it
good.
141, Katie?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
141.
141 in the Gold Prayer Book. And hopefully it is the
All
same
right.
version that I have pulled up on the screen.
So when we get to how to generate renunciation, which is the stanza 4, we'll stop there for a moment. Start out with expressing homage. I bow down to my perfect gurus. The essential meaning of the victorious one's teachings, path praised by all the holy victors and their children, gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation. This I shall try to explain as much as I can. Those who are not attached to the pleasures of circling, who strive to make freedom and endowments meaningful, who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones, you fortunate ones, listen with a calm mind. So this is the purpose of, again, renunciation is of the 3 principal aspects. This is number 1. Without the complete intention to definitely be free from circling, that's the wheel of samsara, there is no way to pacify attachments, seeking pleasurable effects in the ocean of circling. Also, by craving for cyclic existence, embodied beings are continuously bound. Therefore, at the very beginning, seek renunciation. This is a quick sort of 4-point meditation on how to generate renunciation. Where they're saying, freedom and endowments are difficult to find, and life has no time to spare. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearances of this life is reversed. Okay, so let's think about this. So the teachings on freedoms and endowments, what does that mean? So those teachings, usually like 8 freedoms and 10 endowments, but we're not gonna go into all that. But there are things like, we're lucky to be born a human. Okay, we're lucky to be born with all of our faculties. We're lucky to be living in a place where there's an opportunity, like if you're in the Ukraine right now, there's virtually no chance to practice any kind of spiritual practice. There are many places in the world like that where, various religions are prohibited, but we're fortunate and we live in a free country. We have the freedom to practice the Dharma. We're not, I guess, sometimes it's called a heretic, but some people have zero interest in spiritual practice, but we have an interest in spiritual practice. So we have, those, and we're free from any kind of impediment that would prevent us from practicing the Dharma. And we have the endowments we have consist of not only a healthy enough body and mind, but we have an interest in spiritual practice, so rare. And then we live at a time when the Buddhist teachings are available, because they're countless. They call them dark eons when the teachings are not available. But we live in a fortunate time when the teachings are available. That not only has the Buddha descended, because apparently there's some periods of time when Buddhists descend, but they don't teach. But this particular Buddha taught, and then there's an unbroken lineage up until now of beings who've heard the teaching, realized the meaning of the teaching, and have been passing it down from student to disciple up to the present moment. And then we have the leisure and fortune, and I said it, and also the interest to want to practice. So many things have come together. I mean, we're so fortunate that way. And life could be over in any moment, couldn't it? We talk about these meditations on death and impermanence. We're not trying to. It's not meant to be depressing. It's just to wake us up to the fact that this life could be over, like any moment. Any moment. There are people that woke up this morning for sure that are sitting in a mortuary right now, had no idea that they were going to die today, but they did. And even tonight, some people will die and certainly had no expectation of it. So everybody dies. So death is definite. There's nobody that can live forever. It's going to happen to you. This is going to happen to you. Death is definite. And so we must practice the Dharma. And the time of death is completely random. It could be any moment, every tick of the clock. Could be our last moment. So many of the things that we have that to make our lives easier become the cause of our death. Medicines, cars, airplanes, houses, so many things can take our lives. So death is definite. We must practice the Dharma. The time of death is completely unknown to us. Could be any moment. So we must practice the Dharma now. And the only thing that's going to help us on our deathbed or in that moment when we're, beginning to leave this life, the only currency that we can spend is spiritual currency. There's the karmic seeds of virtue that we planted on our mind stream. That's the only thing that will be of any benefit at the time of death. So the point here is to realize that life is so precious, so many great opportunities. This life is such an amazing opportunity for us. And it could be over at any minute, any second it could be over. And so we don't want to waste our time chasing after rainbows and seeking just the pleasures of this life. So again, this first 2 points are to turn our mind away from the attractions of the appearances of this life. And then the second part of that stanza says, by thinking over and over again that actions and their effects are unbetraying, that's talking about karma, and repeatedly contemplating the miseries of cyclic existence, that's dukkha, attraction to the appearances of future lives are concerned. So, we think, some of us think, well, I don't really need, I've got a future life. I really don't need to put my effort into achieving nirvana or Buddhahood in this life because we've got countless future lifetimes. But that's a wrong way to think. We need to recollect karma. Remember the laws of karma that, first of all, positive actions lead to happiness and negative actions lead to suffering. And how do we define positive actions? The long-term consequences of the action brings happiness. That's virtue. The long-term consequences of an action that brings suffering is non-virtue. So we want to plant the seeds of virtue on our mind stream. And then karma is expandable. The tiniest seed can, like a little bitty acorn, becomes a huge tree that weighs tons. In the same way, karmic seeds grow exponentially. A mean, nasty thing that you say, that karmic seed will grow like crazy. So it needs to be purified as soon as possible. By the same token, just any little kindness that we show that karma will definitely ripen in future happiness. So we need to rejoice. So karma is expandable, and then we cannot experience a result without creating the cause. So anything that comes into our any experience that we have in our lives is basically the fruition of past karma, be it something that's painful and harmful, something that, where we, you would say, well, I was clearly victimized, and in a relative sense, you were, but from the deep down karmic, the understanding of karma, the real source of our happiness and suffering is our former actions and those karmic seeds that are ripening. So we cannot experience a result, be it happiness or misery, without having created the causes. So this is all about responsibility, about taking responsibility. And I know that might bring up questions for people, but it's very powerful to understand and to take to heart this whole notion that we create our own experience through the ripening of our former actions, and therefore we're going to naturally want to create virtuous karmic seeds because we don't want to see ourselves suffer, and we're going to avoid negativity because we don't want to see ourselves. We're going to create positive seeds because we want to see ourselves happy and avoid negative ones because we don't want to see ourselves suffer. And the last law of karma is that it's never lost. Karmic seeds are never lost. Virtuous seeds eventually will ripen into something positive, negative seeds into suffering, unless we can destroy virtuous seeds by anger, and we can destroy negative seeds by purification practice. And also, there's lots of ways to talk about that, but those are the 4 principles of karma. Karma, positive leads to happiness, negative to suffering. It's expandable. We can't experience a result without creating the cause, and it's never lost. So we get that the law of causality. Then we talk about dukkha, and mainly we're talking about there's lots of different ways to talk about dukkha or suffering, but we usually talk about it in 3 ways: the suffering of obvious pain, which is physical and mental pain. Could be depression, could be a broken bone, could be an illness, an emotional situation, but it's pain, and this is the nature of our existence. Dukkha is the nature of our existence. And then the second one is change, that everything that we now label as happiness and pleasure is always in a state of flux, and it will come to an end, and we're left being dissatisfied. In other words, what we consider to be, and what we, that's what sentient beings do. We chase after, we're addicted to deliciousness. But the thing is, nothing that's delicious lasts, and we're left being dissatisfied. And as Lama Zopa said, the dissatisfied mind is the worst suffering in all of samsara. And we confronted with it day after day, year after year, lifetime after lifetime. And then the third is called pervasive suffering, which is the worst, the most difficult to see, and the worst of all, because we're caught in this whole process called samsara, this process of uncontrolled causation, life after life, born, living through, this craziness, chaos, and we die, and then we take a new life. We'll go through this again and again, endlessly, until we escape, until we achieve nirvana. So this is the nature of existence, our future existence, because most of our actions are motivated by the selfish, self-cherishing mind. Most of our actions, karmically speaking, are going to end up causing suffering. The future looks like suffering. Understanding how karma works and understanding the truth of suffering, or dukkha, the future looks like suffering for us, not only in the future lifetime, but in this lifetime. So we have to turn our mind It says here, attraction and repeatedly contemplating the miseries of cyclic existence, attraction to the appearances of future lives is reversed. So we've reversed our attention to the happiness of this life and of future lives. And we need to practice the Dharma now. We need this determination to be free. That's what renunciation is. And these 4 contemplations are the principal way to develop renunciation. Of course, it's much deeper than I went into, but you get a taste of it. Now, this the definition of having generated renunciation. Now, read this. This is stanza 5. When by having trained in that way, there is no arising, even for a second, of the attraction to the appearances of cyclic existence, and all day and night the intention to seek liberation arises, then the thought of renunciation has been generated. Again, renunciation, aka determination to be free. Free of what? Free of suffering. And you have to believe in yourself. You have to have confidence that you can actually do that. Now, we'll go to the Bodhichitta, purpose of generating the mind of enlightenment. Even if renunciation has been developed, if it is not possessed by the mind of enlightenment, it does not become the cause of the perfect bliss of unsurpassed enlightenment. Therefore, the wise generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. How to generate the mind of enlightenment? Swept away by the current of the 4 powerful rivers, tied by the tight bonds of karma, so hard to undo, caught in the iron net of self-grasping, that's ego, completely developed, enveloped by the total darkness of ignorance, endlessly reborn in cyclic existence, ceaselessly tormented by the 3 sufferings, thinking that all mothers are in such a condition, generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. Now here's the definition, and again, this is what this class is about, so we'll talk about this in a minute. The definition of having generated the mind of enlightenment. In short, if the mother whose cherished son has fallen into a pit of fire and who experiences even 1 second of his suffering as an unbearable eternity, your reflection on the suffering of all mother sentient beings has made it impossible for you to bear their suffering for even 1 second, and the wish seeking enlightenment for their sake arises without effort, then you have realized the supreme precious mind of enlightenment. So the mind of enlightenment has two components. The first one is the wish to help others be free of suffering and its causes and achieve supreme happiness, even enlightenment. And the second one is that we have to do that ourselves. We have to become Buddhas in order to be able to accomplish the welfare of others. So those are the 2 key factors in the Bodhi mind or Bodhichitta. Now the rest, this next part's a little bit cryptic, but we're going to read through it anyway. It's about emptiness. Without the wisdom realizing ultimate reality, even though you realize renunciation and the mind of enlightenment or bodhicitta, you cannot cut the root cause of circling, that's samsara. Therefore, attempt the method to realize dependent arising. So dependent arising is the king of reasonings. It's the proof of emptiness is that all things, there are 4 aspects to it, that all things exist in dependence upon causes and conditions. It might be 3. All things exist in dependence upon causes and conditions, in dependence upon parts, and in dependence upon a consciousness that labels it. In other words, there's nothing that exists out there independent of the mind labeling it. Things are empty. Our whole world is created. It's not like there's nothing, there's no, Lama Zopa says it's almost like there's nothing out there. It's not like this doesn't exist, but it doesn't exist to where our mind sees it. And so basically our reality, because things are completely empty, it's almost like we're looking at a blank screen, and our our mind is like a projector, projecting our life, our feelings, our experiences, wherever we go, whatever we do, our mind is projecting this thing called my life. And most of it's suffering. And most of it is motivated by egocentricity. And where does that come from? It comes from past actions. Karmic seeds were planted. This life and in former lifetimes, these seeds have been planted and they're ripening. Billions of seeds are ripening right now for you to see yourself at Kadampa Center, to see yourself alive, a human being with an interest in the Dharma at the Kadampa Center. This is not an accident. This is like, so our past virtuous karma, I'm going to say, is ripening, literally forcing us, we're projecting on this screen because there's nothing out there independent of our mind labeling it. We see ourselves here. So things are empty of independent inherent existence. The mind is literally labeling, projecting our reality, but in it, our reality depends upon a consciousness that labels. Okay, so that's part of the king of reasoning. So that's in a nutshell, emptiness. Things are empty of independent inherent existence. Why? Because they exist in dependence upon causes and conditions, their various parts, and a consciousness that labels them. It looks to be, everything appears to exist out there, independent and inherently, right? Who would deny that, right? If you think about it, it's clear. But in fact, the way they exist is the opposite of that. They exist dependently. Karma, causing conditions, parts, and a consciousness that labels it. So that's emptiness. So this is what we're talking about. Showing the right view. One who sees the cause and effect of all phenomena, of both cyclic existence and the state beyond sorrow, are forever unbetraying, and for whom any object trusted in by the grasping mind has completely disappeared, has at that time entered the path pleasing the Buddha. The definition of not having completed the analysis of right view. So they're saying, if the appearance of dependent relations, those things that I just talked about, dependent arising, depending upon causes and conditions, parts, and the consciousness that labels it, it says, if the appearance of dependent relations, which is unbetraying, is accepted separately from emptiness, as long as they are seen as separate, then one has not realized the Buddha's intent. So, because things exist in dependence upon causes and conditions, parts, and a designating consciousness, they're empty. It's talking about the same thing, two sides of the same coin. As long as they're seen as separate, we miss the point. When we can see them as completely sort of coherent, and then we understand what the Buddha is saying. So he says, if these two realizations are happening simultaneously without alternation, and for merely seeing dependent relation as completely betraying, the definite ascertainment comes that completely destroys the way all objects are apprehended as truly existent. At that time, the analysis of ultimate view is complete. So when we see things as empty, we're not caught up in appearances. We're not caught up in basically, the self-grasping mind and all the suffering that follows. We don't trust it anymore. We understand. It's said that when you do these meditations correctly, when you come out of meditation on emptiness, your whole world changes. You begin, it's almost like it's almost like a dream. Like they say, like seeing everything is like, not as a dream, but like a dream. We don't cling, we don't grasp, because we understand that the way things appear and the way they exist are completely opposite. And lastly, or not, next to the last one, particular special quality of the Prasangika. That's the highest school of teaching on emptiness. Furthermore, appearances eliminate the extreme of existence. Appearances eliminate the extreme of existence. That's inherent existence they're talking about. And emptiness eliminates the extreme of non-existence. Now that's weird, isn't it? Think about that one. Understanding things could not exist if they weren't empty. Because if things existed independently, they wouldn't change. Right? If they didn't depend on things, they wouldn't change. So it's an impossible way for things to exist. Well, that's what they're saying. And emptiness eliminates the extreme of non-existence. If you realize how emptiness manifests in the manner of cause and effect, then you are not captivated by wrong notions holding extreme views. So if you realize how emptiness manifests in the manner of cause and effect, you're not captivated by wrong notion holding extreme views. One extreme views like nihilism, for example, or eternalism, like things are the way they exist. Things do exist the way they appear. That's called eternalism. And nihilism means nothing exists. It doesn't matter. You can just make up your label, whatever you want to call it. That's the way it is. That's nihilism. So having gained definite ascertainment, advice in pursuing the practice. In this way, you realize exactly the vital points of the three principal aspects of the path. Resort in seeking solitude, generate the power of effort, and quickly accomplish your final goal, my child. So that's where Bodhichitta fits in. There's renunciation, then we have the Bodhi mind, awakening mind, this heart of enlightenment, which is I think it's the most amazing part of Buddhism for me, and then the correct view of emptiness. And emptiness is so important because, and by the way, there's relative bodhicitta, which is what we're studying, 7 cause and effect and exchanging self with others. There's relative bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta is emptiness, is the truth of the wisdom of emptiness. Okay? So that we're starting where we are, right? And this is it takes a long time, it takes effort over time to realize these things. So let's do we'll do the 7 cause and effect. Now remember last week we talked about equanimity, right? The first point, equanimity. That looks right. Equanimity. So if we're going to develop compassion for all sentient beings, we can't exclude anybody. We can't exclude the people that we don't like. We can't exclude our strangers, which is a majority of beings, right? We can't exclude the people that we have aversion toward. We need to develop an equal sort of level-mindedness toward all beings. And we talked about a couple of ways we can do that. One is to realize the changeability of the relationships, where, all the friends we have today were at one point strangers, as were the enemies. At one point, our so-called enemies were at one point strangers. There are plenty of times when strangers when enemies have actually become strangers, or enemies have become friends, or friends have become enemies. It's like these labels are not fixed. They're changeable. And so we need to get this sort of level-mindedness about it. And also we understand that everyone is just like us. Everybody, every sentient being, every being capable of feeling wants happiness, does not want to suffer. We're all exactly equal that way. It's important for us to see this, that we're all equally wanting to be happy and not wanting to suffer. So we start out by developing this mind of equanimity. Then this is like the second, usually they don't even talk about it in the 6 in the 7 cause and effect, they just leave this one off. But then we want to see all sentient beings as mom, okay? And if you have problems with your mother, I could say something, but it's an important relationship. Karmically, it is the most important relationship because that's where our bodies came from. But it's important. Generally speaking, most people have a good relationship with their mom, so that's why it's chosen. But it could be somebody else. But the whole point is, our mom of this life has been our mom in past lifetimes, will be our mother in future lifetimes. And Linda's been my mom countless times, and will again. Hi, Mom. Yeah. Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. Lama Zopa, Lama Yeshe used to see whenever he saw anybody, he called them kind mother sentient beings, kind mother. Sounds a little weird, doesn't it? But he'd call everybody kind mother sentient beings. And he'd label everybody as having been mom, immediately feeling a sense of connection. Then you want to remember, again, got to be generous here, particularly if you have problems with your mom, remembering the kindness of all mother sentient beings. And we can talk about the kindness of our mother of this life, carrying us for 9 months, going through the birthing process, feeding us, clothing us, cleaning us, getting up at night when she was sick, taking us to school, blah, 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 all the way up to the present moment. If your mom's still alive, there's a good chance if somebody said, somebody's got to die in here, her hand would go up first. She would sacrifice herself for you. That's how moms are. Even in the animal kingdom, so many examples of animals, mothers giving up their lives to save their babies, right? So remembering the kindness of others. And then we can think of it in terms of just practical things like this building and our bodies, due to the kindness of our parents, and the food that we eat, everything that we have is due to the kindness of others. So we need to remember that kindness, and then the wish to repay the kindness. So this kind of naturally arises from these other ones. It's like, they've been so kind to me. It's not up to somebody else to repay their kindness. It's up to me. I must repay the kindness of all these mother sentient beings. Then the next one is it's sometimes called affectionate love, but it's basically love with a capital Love. It's a special kind of affectionate love. And remember how we define love in Buddhism? And these words are not love. They're the definition of love. It's the wish that beings could be free of suffering. The wish that beings could have happiness and the causes of happiness. That's love. I wish, and there's a sutra called the Meta Sutra. And sometimes I try to practice this when I'm mindful, those rare moments. But the Meta Sutra, it's like there are 4 points. May you be safe. May you have happiness. May you have health. May you have ease of well-being. The Meta Sutra. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy, have ease of well-being. Right? And because of our mothers been so kind to us, we must repay their kindness. And so what arises spontaneously is this feeling of sincere, heartfelt love, which again is not these words. It's a feeling that we have, in our heart when we see another living being. This is why I'm guessing, I don't know but the Dalai Lama says he never sees a stranger. He feels connected to everybody. He does these meditations every day, and he's in his 80s, late 80s now. I mean, he's been doing these Bodhichitta meditations, for years. So this kind of love is so important. And then we need to remember we talked about compassion. right? So if you don't love somebody and you see them suffering, what do? If you hate them, like if Vladimir Putin right now got offed, I think a lot of people would be happy about that. And maybe that's, from a karmic perspective, it might actually be good for him because he's creating so much icky karma right now. But, you know, for us to rejoice in the death of somebody is bad karma for us, right? So for compassion to arise, we have to have a feeling of connection and warmth toward others. The more, you know, it's like what a mother would feel for their child is suffering. It's spontaneous compassion. And it's not the words, may you be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. That's the definition. But it is that feeling that's brought on by these other contemplations, okay? So seeing everybody as mother, remembering their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, this sort of affectionate love, compassion, and then I call it the supreme wish, but you can call it what you want, but it's this sort of, this wish that, that I'm going to take responsibility for guiding all of my kind mother sentient beings from their current state of misery and suffering all the way to supreme enlightenment. And then the last attitude that we need to develop is Bodhichitta. Okay, so again, Bodhichitta is this, we've gotten to this point where we've developed sincere love and compassion, and we look and see what a mess this world is and how much chaos and how much suffering, and it's unbearable. For a Bodhisattva, it's unbearable to see this suffering and not do anything about it. And so the Bodhisattva says, I take responsibility. I've got to stop the suffering. I cannot stand it any longer. And then the Bodhisattva, this sort of spiritual warrior, this spiritual hero, realizes that I haven't even resolved my own issues. I have to develop my mind. I have to eliminate my faults and develop my qualities. I have to practice renunciation, and bodhicitta, the correct view of emptiness. That's the way basically the Lam Rim. I need to practice the Lam Rim, and then I need to enter the tantric path and practice the generation and completion stage of Tantra. And then I can become a Buddha, and then I'll be able to know exactly what to do and say to help each individual based on their particular propensity. Like, what practice would help you to get enlightened? What do you need to do to purify your negative karma? And you. We're all different. And a Buddha would be able to know that. The Buddha would be able to look and see our karmic predispositions, see what's blocking us, and help us, to evolve as far as we can, and hopefully eventually become completely enlightened. So these are the, 6 causes and 1 effect. Equanimity, it should be 7, it should be 8. Equanimity is always, whenever anybody says they want to meditate on universal compassion, it always has to start out with equanimity. It's just, even when we'll talk about exchanging self with others next week, but this is the key. This is the key. So this week, I'd like for people to do these meditations, and also the handout, that the video. There's this really cool thing that I discovered accidentally, but it's like I said, when I started, when I was thinking about this class, I thought it's so important. We talk about mindfulness. It's so important to be mindful. But it's not our default mode, is it? Our default mode is to be unconscious and to just follow our habits. And it's not helpful. We have to begin to interrupt this sort of mindless, we are caught in a process of uncontrolled causation called samsara. It is going to take effort to interrupt that. So this is called inner job description mindfulness tool. So the Bodhichitta attitude, and it says, it lists about 5 or 6 points. It says, if you did it, you rejoice. If you did the opposite, then you regret. And then you purify any negativities that you created. So during the course of the day, when you print this out at least once a day, maybe at the end of the day, but you could do it 3 times a day or more. You say, I will think of others more than myself. I will think of others more than myself. Remember the meditation on exchanging self with others that we talked about? Start labeling others you. And in other words, because they're empty, I'm empty, right? All we are merely label collection of basically parts and a consciousness. That's what gets labeled I. So I'm going to label you I, and I'm going to label you I. I'm going to take care of you like I would take care of me. This thing of exchanging self with others, so important. I myself will make a difference. Get to check that off if you did that today. I will provide whatever beings need. So when we're with others, we try to look and see, what do they want? What do they need? Because not everybody, a lot of people want things they don't need. That's not what we're talking about. Here we need wisdom, don't we? You don't give a drug addict fentanyl. That's not what they need. So we give them what they want and what they need. All right? I will respect the center rules and the 5 precepts. So again, the 5 precepts. Anybody know what the 5 precepts are? So this is in Buddhist countries, they try to live by the 5 precepts. And honestly, if spiritual practice goes nowhere if we don't have at least some degree of ethics, we don't live in some way ethically. Otherwise, it's a dead end road because we're so full of regret all the time that we can never find the kinds of spiritual realizations that we want. So we have to live ethically. So the 5 precepts, I don't know if I can even remember them all, but we want to avoid killing and stealing and adultery and lying and intoxicants. These are the things that in Buddhist countries, they encourage the lay people to just live by those 5 precepts. And most people, when you think about intoxicants, you go, well, that's not such a big deal, I can understand stealing, killing, sexual misconduct, and lying, but intoxicants not that big a deal. But the big deal is this: when we get loaded, when we get intoxicated, we can do the other 4 things and not even know we did it because we were blacked out or we were so unconscious. So the intoxicants thing is not meant to sort of make us suffer or not have any, not be able. The reason that the intoxicants part is in there is because what we're trying to do is wake up, and intoxicants tend to put us to sleep. So those are the 5 lay precepts. All right, I will never give up, and I will remember that samsara has problems, even when things seem good. So just notice that any pleasant experience that you're having will not last. And if you keep doing whatever it is that you're doing that's giving you pleasure, eating pizza, you name it, fill in the blank, eventually it turns into suffering. So we have to understand that's the nature of samsara. Then the 6 perfections are listed under here. We're going to touch that more at the last class. Remember, we talked about these are the practices of the Bodhisattva. So it's generosity. Okay, it's not just material generosity, but giving the Dharma, giving safety. Okay, being a kind of person that when people are around you, they feel safe. That is such a gift to be able to give the world. And so few people have are able to be that kind of person. But what a gift. So generosity, ethics, which we talked about in great length. 2/3 of the Buddhist teachings are texts on ethics, on the importance of ethics. Why? Because positive ethics force us to see ourselves as happy, right? The karmic seeds ripen. Onto the screen of our life is happiness and pleasure. That's what we want. And being, not living ethically plants the karmic seeds that cause our projector to project a life of suffering. And that's what we have. We're in samsara. So what we want, well, so much of Buddhism is wrapped around the importance of ethics or morality, checking on your actions of body, speech, and mind. Venerable Robina has a great way of saying it. She basically says, keep your mouth shut and your hands to yourself. It's a great way to live ethically. All right. So we call that morality. Then there's patience, which is also tolerance. Okay? It is patience, not just in getting angry, but it's also the patience with the hardships of spiritual practice. It is not easy. So we have to have tolerance and patience along the path. So these are all the practices that once we develop Bodhichitta, these are the things we need to be focusing on. Then there's joyful effort, which is taking joy in the practice of virtue. It's like looking for opportunities to practice virtue. When you come up to that, to the exit ramp, and there's some guy or lady out there with their hand out. If you've got $1 in your pocket, you could give it away. What the heck? That's an opportunity for you. I know Bob Thurman, he was a professor at Columbia for years and Buddhist scholar and everything. Bob said he used to, when he was walking down the street in New York, whenever he saw a beggar, he would reach in his pocket and take whatever he had, whatever money he had in his pocket, he'd give it to him. And he said, sometimes it was more than he really felt comfortable giving away. But practicing generosity, is so, again, so important. But the joyful effort, taking joy in the practice of virtue. Then the fifth perfection is concentration. It's a mind like a laser. It's a mind like a laser. When our mind, first of all, when our mind is concentrated, we're so happy. If you ever do meditation on concentration and you get into the groove, where things are effortless, your mind, you feel like your body's floating, your mind is blissfully happy. And the more concentrated our mind becomes, the more we'll be happy just in terms of day-to-day life. But if we're trying to develop realizations of these realizations, we can't have a scattered mind. We have to have a focused, concentrated mind. So concentration. And then last is the wisdom of emptiness. Okay, that's the sixth perfection. So we're talking about we talked about generosity. We talked about morality or ethics. We talked about patience and tolerance. We talked about joyful effort. We talked about concentration. We talked about the wisdom of emptiness. So those are the things. And then there's developing skillful communication. And I'm not going to go through that because we're out of time, but you can read it yourself. My challenge for all of us, and I'm going to do this week too, is every day, at least once a day, and as many, and maybe more, fill this out. Think about it during the day. Think about this list. You can read, there's information on the back that gives you a little bit of context for this, but so we'll do that. So let's just take 1-2 minutes and there's a lot of stuff we talked about tonight, isn't it? Covered a lot of material. A lot of seeds, karmic seeds have been planted. And because you have a good motivation, because you could be anywhere tonight, but you clearly wanted to be here and wanted to have some, you want to be happy. You want to help other people. That's our basic motivation for spiritual practice at Kadampa Center. And it's not a natural way to be. It takes effort to develop that attitude, and it takes a long time. So we want to just let all of this information, all these seeds that will ripen, guaranteed to ripen in future happiness, just for a couple of minutes. You don't have to think anymore. Just sit, relax, and just let whatever karmic seeds have been planted take root, and just for a moment, just digest these teachings. Okay, so let's do the Shantideva's dedication prayer on page. Anybody know?
It's like 34, 35.
Okay.
Actually, 32.
32? Is that what you said?
Yes.
32, not. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. So just a little thing. I'm pretty sure this is true. Everything in this prayer, down up to the last stanza, is from the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, written by Shantideva. But the last stanza was put in by the Dalai Lama, and that's his prayer for himself. It's for as long as space remains, and for as long as sentient beings remain. Until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So he wants to come back again and again and again, as long as he needs to help other beings. So we'll say this prayer together. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Amen. All right, so thank you. We're free to move about the planet. If anybody has any questions, the class is officially over, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to stick around, including the Zoomers over there, wherever you are. I'll be glad to try to answer them. So.
And as far as the homework goes, including the chart that Don was referring to about the inner job description, which is a mindfulness practice, it is posted, or will be when I get home tonight, on the homework. So if you have questions about accessing that, just email me at program.linda@kadampa-center.org.
And then this week you're going to do these meditations, right? 6 cause and 1 effect, or the 7 cause and effect method of developing bodhicitta. By the way, this one is considered to be perfect for beings of lower capability like us. It's not a bad thing. And the exchanging self with others is based on an understanding of emptiness. So it's more powerful, and we'll do that next week. But usually what we will be doing is combining both this and exchanging self and others. The 11 meditations that we did the first class is basically combining both of these 2 methods into one technique for developing bodhicitta. So any questions before we?
I have a question.
Yes.
Oh, was that me? Someone else?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sue.
I'm echoing.
By the way, you don't have to stick around if you don't want to. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
No, I just have a quick
Just
question about the 5 precepts against killing. When Christians say thou shalt not kill, they mean people. Is that what Buddhists mean, or are they talking about insects and chickens and
Well,
things?
it's a great question. And basically it's not killing any sentient being. A
Mhm.
sentient being is a being capable of feeling. And so we do stuff around here, weird stuff at Kadampa Center, like animal liberation.
Mm.
Like, and I do this with my kids sometimes. I'll go buy crickets and I'll go buy worms, and we'll go in the yard and liberate them. And then we'll say prayers. For years, we didn't have a family program here. And every Sunday, we would go to Lake Wheeler and buy $10 worth of crickets and worms and bring them back to my house and liberate them and say prayers for them and mantras. And we would also do purification practice, this thing called Dorji Kadro. We do that every Sunday. And it don't know if it did them any good. I know it did me some good. I think it did them some good. But yeah, so it's in any living being. And it's very interesting though, because there's stories in Buddhism, and there's a lot of controversy about this. There's stories in Buddhism of when the Buddha was, I don't know if I should tell this story or not, but I will.
Tell
I've
it.
already started. All right. The story goes like this. It's like in a lifetime before the Buddha became fully enlightened, he was a Bodhisattva. He was just a smidgen away from being a fully enlightened Buddha, right? And he was the captain of a ship with 100 merchants. And one of those merchants was going to kill the other 99 and take all the booty for himself. And so the Buddha, the Buddha to be the Bodhisattva, was clairvoyant. And he knew unequivocally, he wasn't guessing. He didn't think he was smart. He knew he knew it. He knew exactly that this guy was going to poison and kill all these people. And so what did he do? He took the life of that individual, and the story goes, and there's controversy about this even in the monasteries where they have debates about it. But you can imagine the Buddha, out of compassion for the 99 people that this person would have killed, but also out of compassion for this man or this person who was going to kill the other 99 people, he took his life. Because think of the karma of killing 99 people. That's countless eons in the most hellacious type of existence imaginable. So out of compassion and wisdom, the Buddha took the life of this person. We, ordinary human beings, have incredible potential for self-deception. And so taking a life is always problematic. I used to worry about this when I wrote prescriptions to kill parasites and stuff like that. You know, when people had worms or stuff like that. But, you know, you got to kind of weigh it out, figure it out for yourself. But Buddhism is, it's not dogmatic about this, but it says, but it also really cautions us that most of us don't have the wisdom to go around killing people or anybody or anything. So as much as possible, we try not to. Now you can say, well, look at the Tibetans, they eat meat, and they don't. The Chinese Buddhists don't. And you go to Thailand and the monks eat whatever they get because they beg for food. So what do you get when one of the villagers hands them a fish? They go, oh, I don't want fish. I don't eat meat. They don't do that. They eat whatever they get. So it's a great question and very complex issue in our lives.
Mhm.
Every
Yes.
situation needs to be looked at as a unique situation.
And Michael, did you have a question? I saw you had unmuted or raised your hand.
Well, thank you for pointing that out, Don. And just wanted to say on a more pragmatic, view, from a more pragmatic microphone here, on a day-to-day thing, the struggle usually is with Westerners that, oh, we're supposed to be vegetarians, and there's no injunction to not eat meat. The injunction is simply not to kill.
Yeah.
And I always understood it didn't mean killing bacteria and microbes and the like,
Yeah.
as you mentioned.
Well, if you look at how vegetables and crops are harvested, I mean, thousands and thousands, millions of insects and
Yeah.
worms and sentient beings are being killed for us to eat vegetables. So can't get around, we're going to kill to survive. We're going to have to take, we're going to have to be part of this cycle of killing. But as much as possible, we don't, we want to be careful. We want to be mindful. Like, we have we say a blessing, if I can remember it. When there's a Buddhist kind of blessing that I try to say at mealtime with my kids when I have them all together, it's, but basically it's to be mindful of the kindness of others, of the animals that died and gave up their lives, so that we could eat. So let me see. Do you know that prayer, Melanie?
I don't remember it.
I mean, if I wasn't here, I'd be able to remember it. But basically, it's basically important to be mindful when we're eating that a lot of people, a lot of sentient beings, not only died but worked so that we could have this plate of food in front of us to keep us alive, and to be grateful for that. This is getting back to remembering their kindness. It's not just our mothers that have been kind to us in this and past lifetimes, but all living beings have been kind to us in so many ways. So that's another important part of that. Good, but it's a good question. Thank you for bringing that up. Any else? Any other comments or questions? All right. Well, good. Well, we'll have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Thank
Don,
you.
and thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Don. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah.
Thank you,
for being
Dawn.
here. We'll see you
Thanks,
guys next
Linda.
week. Thank you. Bye, guys. Thanks for coming in person.